I want everyone in the crowd who has ever worked for or worked with or sold to the government to please raise your hand. Ministers, please raise your hand. I see you in the front. Every single one of you understands the pain I experienced every day. The worst part of my job at Deloitte. Finding and winning work with the government sucks. It sucks. And for everyone who didn't raise your hand, I'm going to explain why. Basically, if a city like Toronto is looking for work from a construction company to build a road or a company like Deloitte to change its computer systems, it puts out what we call an RFP, a request for proposal document. They're long, they're confusing, and they're challenging to deal with. And I would spend hours every week trying to find relevant RFPs for my team, and then I'd have to read through these 100 pages just to determine if we were actually going to bid. And when we did, that's when the real pain began. I'd spend weeks copy-pasting chunks of information from old proposals, old documents, to make and tailoring them to the proposal in question. And you know, if this process sucked at a company as big as Deloitte, government contracting must be broken. And we've spoken with hundreds of contractors over the past few months to clarify that they waste almost 20 hours per month finding RFPs, that first part of the problem, almost $50,000 a year actually responding to them. And this problem is huge. Governments of all levels in Canada spend over $200 billion every year on government contracts. And so, Publicus is here to fix this problem. Starting with the first piece, finding relevant contracts. We scrape the entire internet, identifying every opportunity that's relevant to your business, tailoring them to your use case. And then, after we do this, we read the entire RFP, pulling out every single critical detail to take your review process from hours to minutes. And finally, we've ingested hundreds of thousands of old proposals to help you determine your probability of success. And if you decide to go ahead and bid, we make sure you win by automatically generating as much of the RFP as we can using your old proposals, your old content. We then make sure this document is compliant with the rules and regulations of the government. And finally, we use that advanced analytics we've developed by looking at hundreds of thousands of old proposals to help you determine the best possible price. We save you hundreds of hours, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and do it for only $1,000 a month. And importantly, the amount of spending the public, private, and private sectors have on RFP processes is huge, almost $50 billion a year. The 400,000 government contractors in North America spend over $20 billion on these RFP processes. And if we're able to capture just 10% of this huge market, we'd have a top line revenue number of around $2 billion. And we have a plan to win through advanced analytics. Starting, there's RFP generation tools like Lupio, which you may be familiar with, which focus on the generation piece. They do not include the finding and identifying of relevant RFPs. And there's some tools that have started to launch in the States that include this public sector focus, the identification of relevant RFPs, but they don't have those advanced analytics I mentioned earlier, the pricing prediction, the probability of success. And that is how Publicus is going to win. And we're starting with the 700 GovTech companies who sell to the federal government in Canada. These are our early adopters. They're open to technology, and we're approaching them through strategic partnerships with the lobbyists who already serve them. And we're the team to do it. I've worked as a government contractor. I've hated government inefficiencies all my life. And my co-founder, Akash, has worked as an AI engineer for over 7 years at companies like Loblaw Digital. So I want every single person who raised their hand at the start of this presentation to take out your phone, scan this barcode. Every single person who knows a government contractor. We want to learn from you. We want to speak with you. We want to work with you. Thank you very much. I look forward to answering your questions.
So I like the chutzpah is the word of when you see a front row of all government officials.
I got lucky.
You didn't change your presentation, you leaned into it. So good for you on that. The pricing, I find it really great presentation. 700. Mm-hmm. I would imagine there's a wide variety from small to very large organizations, and a Deloitte charging them $1,000, and my cousin who might have a firm with 5 people that are charging them $1,000. What's the rationale around the pricing?
Yeah, so essentially we charge based on the amount of teams or specific subjects you're asking to, $200 a month for each of those, and the number of RFPs you generate, right? So my old team at Deloitte, where there's 6 different subjects they're tracking, that would be 7 times $200 a month. And then if they're writing 30 RFPs, they're gonna have a much higher revenue per user, right? And so we're focused on the smaller companies because we wanna make it accessible. Government contracting is historically something where there's huge barriers to entry, but you're totally right to be curious about that pricing. That's specifically focused on the SMBs, essentially.
Got it. Last question for me. I don't want to get cut off again.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to risk that. Platform, and you're trying to do a lot, which I admire. I think that's a great approach. Are you doing that in a sequential order? Are you tackling? Is there one part that you're, it's going to be a little harder than the rest, and you're building into?
Yeah. So for this whole solution, we believe that we are data lovers and public sector lovers. So we are using generative AI first to take all these data in the public sector and convert them into structured data. But then we want to build recommendation engine, which will help businesses identify these opportunities. But we just don't want to identify these opportunities. We want to have them personalized recommendation engine. What do we mean by that? Is we want to use contract intelligence, so we match the best contracts that's available for your businesses. And I have an amazing co-founder who constantly talks to all these experts. Because of that, we want to incorporate human expertise into this and build specialized AI system in this area.
Great, thank you.
Starting with the first piece and then the second piece.
What's to stop a company like Lupio from integrating this type of product into their existing product?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 main barriers. One is the fact that we have built, and we're going to continue to build, a proprietary data set, right? All public sector data is what we would call unstructured. It is not yet machine usable. We spend a lot of time taking this public data and making it into something that our RAG engines, our technology can actually use. And then at the same time, we're enriching it with budgetary documents, legislative transcripts. That whole process is really challenging, requires a lot of upfront investment, and requires domain expertise. So they could totally take the time to invest in this vertical. However, we do not see that making sense, as they still have to fight it out and win in the private sector before even considering entering government contracting. So the answer is, obviously in the long term, they could totally build this out, but we believe we have enough time and space to run at the problem.
Thanks.
First one, comment. Have you ever heard of a company called Publicis?
Yes. I pronounce that one Publicis,
Publicis. So one, if you're building a big brand, you may over time want to think about it, because that is one of the 4 biggest holding groups, and from the name, it may help, may be different for you guys if you want to build a brand. Did you speak to OpenGov and Cloud Permit?
Yeah, so they're both target customers, I would say, in terms of the types of logos, and I'm sorry that those numbers have pasted there strangely, but of the target vendors we're looking for who sell to the federal government, those would be 2 example ICPs, right?
Did you speak to them?
No, not yet. Not either of Cloud Permit, but Portage Cybertech. There's a few other, Acopia, and I am actually in contact
Please do so
with them.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Talk to the people. When you talk about partnerships and sales channels, you need to understand what you're up against. In terms of OpenGov, go read the story, right? But go talk to them.
For sure.
Tomorrow.
For sure.
Great job.
Thank you.